Brandon Aiyuk and the San Francisco 49ers have agreed to a 4-year contract for $120 million. Thank the Lord. We talk about that and more today on 49ers Uncovered. How's it going, everyone? My name is Mase. You can find me on Twitter at CaliKing49er17. With me, as always, on 49ers Uncovered, Chris. How you doing today, bro?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Today's a fantastic day. 11 days until kickoff. The Niners signed number 11. What are your thoughts here on the final closing of the chapter that is the offseason from hell that has been with Brandon Aiyuk?
I'm glad the chapter's over. I mean, it was not fun not knowing what's going to happen, but now we're ready for the season. We just got to sign Trent.
Yeah, signing Trent Williams, definitely the next move here. All the rumors, all the like statuses from the Commanders, the Cleveland might try to get him. Steelers are trying to get him, blah, blah, blah. Thank goodness we can finally put all that back behind us. What do you think about why did it take so long, and what was the straw that broke the camel's back on this contract?
I think they were both just kind of dug into their positions. But as the season approached, they both kind of said, we have to soften a little bit. Aiyuk didn't want to throw away a full year. So I think that's what did it.
Yeah, I think the Niners, after they drafted Ricky Pearsall, knowing about his shoulder injury, he's still in a non-contact. The Niners retained Ronnie Bell. And we'll talk about the depth chart in a second, how it would look without Brandon Aiyuk. But now that they have him, a much better position. Time to do work on the other contract that is Trent Williams. We have spoken before on the show a couple episodes back about how I think we both felt that it was a domino effect. Once the first one happened, they'd assess the financial situation they have and then go and get the other one with all the roster cuts and everything that's been going on. I think the Niners finally got some clarity on how much they had, how much they were willing to throw out there. Aiyuk gets his $30 million, I believe, on average. The math. I know the whole contract details probably aren't out there in the public yet, but do you anticipate the next week? Do you think Trent Williams goes into the season without a new contract, or do you think this is going to happen before?
I think it'll happen before the season starts. Trent's got to want to get on the field, and the Niners know it has to happen. So,
yeah. Do you think that the contract situation is different because one was holding in somewhat, like Aiyuk was sometimes there, then he wasn't, then he was, and you know what I mean? And Trent Williams is just, I don't know, I guess super OG about it, like old school, like he's just, I'm just not going to show up. I don't care about the fines. Like, you guys are going to pay me or not. Like, do you think there's any difference there, and that's why the Niners handled it the way that they have?
Yeah, he's really dug in. He's lost a lot of money sitting out, and more money than I would be willing to lose. So
straight up. Well, we saw with Nick Bosa, same thing kind of happened with him, and I think they kind of forgave his fines and whatnot, and just kind of were like, all right, let's just let it happen, and we'll just go from here with the relationship. In other kind of news, I guess we'll keep it NFC West before we move on to the next segment. The Rams got rid of their star linebacker for pennies on the dollar. The Rams traded Ernest Jones and a 6th-round pick for a 5th-round pick to the Tennessee Titans. The Titans, they have Kenneth Murray and Jack Gibbons at linebacker, so not the strongest guy. Murray's new there too. What do we think about Sean McVay not, I guess, really promoting or having on high standard his linebacker position? And what do you think about him moving out of the division?
Yeah, that's just another guy the Niners don't have to deal with. I mean, he's a stud. I don't know what they were thinking on that one, but thank you.
Yeah, no, seriously, I want to thank Sean McVay for doing that. He's good in coverage. He's a really good tackler. Maybe they just didn't want to pay him. I think he had a year left on his contract. I'm sure he'll probably get paid over there in Tennessee. So nice to see that he can go over there. A former Niner, Azeez Al-Shaair, was over there, prior year and lit it up, got a contract, and is over there with former Niner DeMeco Ryans and Houston, and they're looking to make noise too. So maybe he can kind of carry that over there. But just want to say bon voyage to Ernest Jones. But that was a question that I wanted to say is Do you think the Rams are going to be using a lot more diamond nickel packages? Not as many linebackers. They're looking for, I don't know, strength in their speed in the secondary. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's possible, but good luck doing that against the Niners. I mean,
Yeah, no, for sure, 100%. You don't want a defensive back guarding George Kittle. They may be quick, but it'll take 3 or 4 of them to get them down. So, I mean, you have less guys down there in the zone or guys that want to bang in the box. I don't know. It's going to be nice because there's not going to be too many looks that they're going to be able to give the Niners on defense. And if the Niners know that their inside linebackers are inexperienced, they're definitely going to exploit that with some CMC action, I feel like. So,
yeah,
that would be cool to see. Okay, so we'll move on to the roster because that's kind of what we are going to get on big time before the Aiyuk situation happened, literally moments before we hopped on here. The Niners released a lot of players. I'm just going to name some off, and afterwards you go ahead and just give me a couple that I guess you want to talk about if you do on any. The Niners have released Ben Barch, Chris Hubbard, Brandon Parker, Robbie Chosen, and Trent Taylor, T.Y. McGill, Nick Williams, Eric Saubert, Logan Thomas, Tracy Walker, and Rock Ya-Sin. I think a couple of those guys did make the practice squad, and Rock Ya-Sin, Ben Barch, and Eric Saubert actually got put on the active squad, the 53 roster. In past, I guess, years, I guess I've never really been dug this deep into the NFL and how it works and operates, with social media and stuff. You get the news as it's happening, right? So to see guys get cut from the team like Saubert and then thinking, oh, man, like we thought this guy was going to be tight end 3 at least. And then all of a sudden now he's back on the active roster. Is there kind of weirdness to that, or do you think it's always happened and that's just how it goes?
Yeah, it is a little weird. I mean, I was a little surprised by some of the moves, and then they brought back some of the guys that they released. It's a circle a lot of times.
Yeah. I do like that Rock Ya-Sin signing. I talked a lot about his physicality and what he brings to that defense, even as like a rotational special teams kind of guy. He wears that chip on his shoulder. So that is a really good hold for us. The practice squad players right now, Isaac Algaron, but he came through the NFL's International Pathway Program. So to see him go from that to actually getting a practice squad spot, that's just kind of like the next step for him, I feel like. So that's good depth there. Great story as well. Defensive lineman Evan Anderson, defensive lineman Alex Barnett, and Jonathan Garvin, who was pretty good in preseason. Offensive lineman Sebastian Gutierrez, cornerback Chase Lucas, safety Mahoney, safety, wide receiver Tate Martin, defensive lineman T.Y. McGill Jr., our boy quarterback Tanner Mordecai got a spot, Drake Nugent, offensive lineman, Mason Peeline, tight end, Trent Taylor, wide receiver, Tracy Walker III, and Braden Willis, tight end, to our practice squad. Also, the Niners signed the running back today that they also had. His name is escaping me right now. And then Terrence Marshall. I think the Niners got off waivers from Carolina.
Yeah.
Trent Taylor making the practice squad. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with it. He's a solid guy to have in your organization in any capacity,
Yeah, I think
he knows what he's doing. So
yeah, he's just one of those special team guys. He can fill the role if we get a lot of injuries. Tracy Walker as well. I really do like that. There were a couple guys who we had kind of talked about in previous weeks about being on the bubble. I want to go over those guys and where they landed in the entire cut process, I guess. Cameron Latu, tight end on the Browns. They have Njoku there, but do you think he might see something there? And
maybe if Njoku gets hurt. I mean, I think Njoku is a better tight end. I mean,
yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. It's strange to see a third-round pick go that quickly. Obviously, the Niners had zero faith in him, and he's just, 3 sheets to win and gone. Now, Samuel Womack, my guy, when we were watching the Raider game, he gave up that super big play, didn't want to commit pass interference, cost the Niners a touchdown. I don't know if that cost him a roster spot, but he's a very aggressive guy. 3 teams put in waivers for him. He ended up going to the Colts, but the Chiefs were also a team that were looking to get him. I would have hated to see him in a Chiefs uniform. That would have been disgusting for me. But what do you think about the loss of him?
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that one too. I mean, he's been on the Niners. I thought they had a little more trust in him. you know, but that's just how it goes sometimes. They're solid in the defensive backfield, so.
No, for sure. We've said it before, and I will continue saying it because it's the best defensive back group that we've had in the Shanahan era.
No doubt.
Especially if Womack's getting cut. I mean, he is a back-end guy, but he's a really, really good one. And there are teams that are better off on special teams than we are that put in for him on waivers. So it just goes to show you his ability, his potential, and what teams think he can be. Last guy that I'll talk about that got picked up by a team, and then I'll go over some guys that didn't. Cody Schrader. This is probably the most disgusting of them all. Cody Schrader goes to the Rams after we cut him, does not clear waivers, and then Isaac Guerrero has a groin injury. Just like back-to-back problems. We talked about Cody Schrader's first game, man, kind of had some jitters, had some good reps on special teams, had some actually pretty good runs. Looked like he had a dog in him. He was running. I mean, nothing like our boy JP Mason, but the kid was a rookie. He's an undrafted free agent, and now we get to see him. It's as a Ram in blue and, I don't know, yellow. Gross. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that was interesting. I was disappointed to see him go to the Rams, of all teams. I thought he had potential to at least be a special teams guy, but I guess not.
It just goes to show you that third-round pick in Guerrero, regardless of how he's going about or developing or not developing because he's injured, that's kind of going to be the guy that they go with either probably this year and also a little bit into next year. I think Shanahan has like a year and a half on running backs and those skill guys, even as we saw with Latu. Another guy, Danny Gray, didn't find a team, but he posted some Philadelphia status on his social media after the Niners cut him. I don't know, what are your thoughts on the Danny Gray project that was? That one touchdown pass he had from Trey Lance for like 80 yards, I was like, dude, here we go. Like, He nailed it. Fast forward, 3 years later, here we are, him and Lance both gone. What are you thinking about Danny Gray?
No, I mean, I remember that play too, and I thought the exact same thing, but that's really the only thing that sticks out from Danny Gray's career as a Niner to me.
Yeah, dude was a ghost. He's never there. It's always sidelined. Something happened. I mean, that sucks because you can't put a guy back for that, right? Like your number one thing is availability and getting on the field so that you can show reps. So just definitely unfortunate. Other guys, Matt Breida, we talked about him maybe making the roster. He didn't even make the practice squad, so the Niners didn't even initially have a practice squad player at running back until they signed. I need to look him up and see what his name is because I keep forgetting. I want to say Noshawn Moreno, but I know it's not Noshawn Moreno. Jalen Graham, the linebacker, was cut, and also Presley Harvin, who has a boomstick of a leg, dude. They haven't landed anywhere. Do you have any thoughts on those guys before we move on?
Presley Harvin, I figured he would be gone just because of Wishnowsky.
Yeah.
Once Wishnowsky got healthy, I mean, they like him. So.
Yeah, and he was out because he had a kid also, I believe. So I'd be kind of bent, right?
That is what it was, huh?
Yeah. Okay. Keyshawn Vaughn is the running back that keeps on slipping my mind for everyone watching. So
yeah,
extremely sorry about that. I don't know why I kept going to Noshawn Moreno. It's fantasy season right now, so I'm like in the mix on that. Okay, so Aiyuk was on the roster still, technically in the 53-man. So him signing the contract, it's not going to like kick anyone else off the roster. So let's go over some names who we thought maybe were on the bubble and that we're surprised with that made the roster. I'm going to start with the two wide receivers, Chris Conley and Ronnie Bell. Chris Conley did look really good in the postseason last year. The Niners did have looming issues with the X position, and he's one of the few guys on the roster I think could, especially with Ricky Pearsall having the reoccurring shoulder injury. So that kind of makes sense to me from the Aiyuk standpoint of him not being on the team, but now he's just nice depth. He doesn't really provide any special teams help, though. Ronnie Bell had a great touchdown last year against the Giants, but aside from that, he hasn't really done much as of late. He has a special teams ability. Are you surprised more about Ronnie Bell or Chris Conley staying on the roster?
I was more surprised about Ronnie Bell. I mean, he drops passes from time to time. Hasn't really showed us a lot, in my opinion. But
yeah, I agree with that. The tight ends, the backup tight ends. What are we making of that? Like, is Eric Saubert the guy? Is Tongs the guy? We only have two guys now that are backing them up. I think the Niners normally keep four. I want to say, if I'm not mistaken. We got P-Line on the practice squad has helped there, but I don't remember seeing him much in preseason. So what do you think about these backup guys?
So Eric Saubert, I believe the most targets he's ever had in a season is like 24.
Wowzers.
And I looked earlier, and it looked like Jake Tongs has had one single target. So it's interesting to say the least.
Yeah, well, I mean, those backup tight ends, Shanahan really wants guys that can block and get gritty. If he wanted a pass catcher, I think he would have kept Logan Thomas, right? He had 76 targets last year. We beat that dead horse. I was pulling for him and now feel like a dummy for 2 weeks. So he was cut, put back on, cut, put back on. Didn't see any snaps. Like, what are we doing here? Speaking of guys who I thought were going to be on the bubble as well, Flanagan Fowles. He looks like he's going to be a starter. Orion Burks position, kind of what he had last year. He's higher the depth chart than D. Winters, Curtis Robinson, and Tatum Bethune. We spoke highly of Bethune during his games. He looked like he was showing great strides, getting better. Winters and Robinson, I think they've gotten better from last year. I think Winters is more of like a end the entire play or become like the reason why the play got a touchdown kind of player.
Yeah.
And Robinson's kind of like that guy in the middle. What do you make of our linebacker situation? And do you think that we are in a good spot right now?
I think so. Flanagan Fowles, he's solid. Bethune is probably going to take a little time, but I have faith that he'll get there because we've seen good things.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, we've talked about Bethune. He'll come along.
Yeah, I think Flanagan Fowles, when I was talking to you before the Raider game, I was like, I don't know, man, this guy's kind of in the bubble. And he went out there, and I'm like, who is this guy in the backfield? Who is this guy, looking – he's got the big old spider wings bringing guys down. And it was him. He was getting active. He's getting after it. I don't know if something activated in him, but I hope he brings that on game day, and I'm sure that he probably will, playing for the defense that he has. Darrell Luther got an outside corner roster spot. Do you think he or Samuel Womack should have gotten that spot?
That's tough. Darrell Luther did play well in a couple of those preseason.
Couple picks.
Yeah. And I believe he had three pass defenses in one game. I don't know if it was the last preseason game, but it was one of them.
Yeah.
So he looked good.
Yeah, I think he's more aggressive, definitely, was getting after it. He was in a lot of plays. A lot of guys were trying him in the preseason, and he was not having it. So that's kind of nice to see. Still sucks. I really had a lot of faith in Womack, but both guys, pretty good players. Both edge players, Floyd and Gross-Matos, avoided major injuries at the final preseason game. Do you think Floyd's going to be good to go week one? I know there's still not concerns looming, but they haven't really fully announced that he's going to be good to go week one. Are you concerned about that? And how important is that opposite edge position across from Bosa? Because last year we signed Chase Young, Randy Gregory, a bunch of guys trying to get him in there, and nothing really worked.
Yeah. So for week one, it sounds like it's kind of up in the air. But, like you said, they're not concerned long term. But that position is very important. I mean, you can't expect Bosa to get at the quarterback every single play. You got to have that guy on the other side getting in there every once in a while.
Oh, yeah, because Bosa's going to, more times than not, push the quarterback to veer to the opposite side. So you need someone over there to clean it up. And then it would be nice to have someone like Floyd, because I think he had the same amount of sacks as Bosa last year. Someone to get over there, get active. He's a guy that was on the Bills. So when we go up against the Chiefs, he's going to have that same mentality of I hate the Chiefs. You know what I mean? So he's going to be playing right there with us on that savagery, not just the Chiefs, but in a lot of big games. So I think it's critical that we have him on the field. And not that I don't believe in Gross-Matos or maybe some of the rotational guys. We have Beal, guys like that, but you want your best guys out there. And I really feel like Floyd adds a different dynamic than the Niners have not had at DL2. The defensive line, speaking of them, they looked pretty worrisome during the preseason. But when you look at the roster now on paper, they look insanely good. Do you think that our defensive line is going to be good, as good in as good in rushing? Oh my God, I can't talk. Are they going to be as good as they are against the run as they are against the pass? Because the Niners are really good against the pass. So are they going to be as good against the run?
I think there's a good chance they will be. Malik Collins was a very solid pickup, in my opinion. And I expect Javon Hargrave to bring it. I think they'll both bring it.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Elliott's really good in the pass defense as well. Leonard Floyd can get up the quarterback. Our guys can. So it's nice that we also have Devondre Campbell. I think it'll be nice to have there and clean up, and then Flanagan Fowles as well with Dre Greenlaw out. But what I'm thinking right now in my head is, okay, if we are going to be running 3 linebackers some of the time, obviously we have the capability to run diamond nickel. We have a lot of dogs at the defensive back position. But with Hufanga out, maybe we run more linebackers in the beginning, which will be nice because down the stretch we'll be able to put 3 guys, in those playoff games. We'll have Campbell, we'll have Warner, and we'll have Greenlaw.
Yeah.
Sheesh, bro. That's not going to be good for opposing offenses, right? And then you got Bosa and Floyd. Now, obviously, it's a perfect world. Everyone stays healthy, blah, blah, blah. But just thinking about it, man, it's got me salivating. It's got me ready to watch some 49er football here.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's any concern with Renardo Green? I don't want to say that he's buried on the chart, but we've talked about Isaac Yiadom before. He just got back to practice today. He was hitting bags. He was in full pads. He is assumed to take the outside corner role opposite of Ward. And then Lenore is going to be moved inside. Green's going to have that step back. Do you think that this is going to be bad for his development, or do we think that he's going to get pop shots at different spots, outside, inside, deep, not so much, and it's going to give him a lot of ground to get better? What are your thoughts there?
I think they're probably going to move him around, because it is my belief that he can play outside as well as inside. So when you can do that, how valuable is that?
Yeah, that's why I like Green, because he plays really, really big. Like, he's not the biggest guy in the field. He's not small by any sense, but he plays really big. So to have a big bully in at slot or nickel, like having Lenore there too, like, oh my gosh. I'm just kind of concerned because we haven't seen Yiadom yet. So I don't know how his game speed is. I don't know much about how he was in New Orleans, what was going on there. I know he had Lattimore outside of him. So he's probably got time. He's probably got, he's probably good. But you just want to kind of see him come off injury and be all right. Is he going to be more successful on the outside, Yiadom, do you think, than Lenore? Or do you just think that we have not seen anything from them? And let's just kind of see what happens week 1.
I like Lenore in the nickel. I think he's kind of built for that role, to be honest. I think that's where he'll have his most success. So Yiadom on the outside does make sense.
Yeah. Looking at the Jets week 1, they have Williams, they've got Wilson, and then their rookie, who's like a miniature clone of Deebo Samuel, Malachi Corley. So they're going to get tested week 1. Aaron Rodgers going out there. He can definitely swing the pigskin. Do you have any concerns as far as I know we're kind of diving into the game real quick, but I just want to touch on it for a second. Do you have any concerns with this defense going into week 1? Or do you think that we are actually in a really good spot defensively?
Week 1 will be a test. Garrett Wilson. Is Mike Williams healthy? Do we know?
Yeah, I think they just said that he's healthy and he's going to be playing week 1.
Yeah, that's a test. Corley's a burner.
Yeah.
And then you got Breece Hall coming out of the backfield, so they're a good offense. Yeah,
much like the Niners, I think their biggest problem, because they do have a decent defense. I don't think they do have Sauce Gardner, and I'm trying to think who their safeties are, but no. Yeah, I don't know. Aside from Sauce Gardner, I don't think their defensive backs are as good as ours. They do have good linebackers in Mosley and Williams. Their defensive line's really good. They've got rotational guys as well. They've put a lot of first-round picks into there. So I think the question mark for both teams, honestly, is just the offensive line. Can the Niners sign their guy and get a tackle? They only have 3 tackles on the roster if you include Williams right now. So I think that's kind of like the writing on the wall that the Niners are really going to get him signed, or that they need to. I don't know. We kind of talked about it earlier, but if the Niners don't get Williams, it's going to be a tough week 1 matchup. You agree?
Their depth at tackle kind of proves that they expect to sign.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I think we are as well, or my thought process. So you got anything else to add on this episode of 49ers Uncovered before we close it out?
No, I think we pretty much covered it.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I'm Mase. That's Chris. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining.
Have a good one.